tax freight train is bearing down on your retirement. To protect yourself, you'll have to harness the power of zero.
Hello there. Welcome to the Power of Zero show. I am your host, best-selling author David McKnight, author of The Power of Zero, Look Before You LERP, The Volatility Shield, and Tax-Free Income for Life. Also working on another book right now. You'll hear more about that as time wears on. Keep your ear to the ground on that. If you're looking for someone to help you navigate all of the pitfalls that stand between you and the 0% tax bracket, why not head over to davidmcknight.com? We'll connect you with a member of our elite POZ advisor group, trained, vetted, qualified personally by me. And if you are a financial advisor looking to level up your game, head over to powerofzero.com, opt into the free 3-part video series. We'd be happy to have a chat with you. Okay, today we are going to talk about some legislative hijinks that is happening in Congress right now and what impact that has on the timing of a potential tax increase that is going to affect certain Americans and will also affect the timing of an increase in tax rates on the rest of America. So the Senate for a long time has struggled to get to an agreement on a $1 trillion infrastructure package. And the two sides were headed by Kristen Sinema out of Arizona and Republican Senator out of Ohio, Rob Portman. And they sort of spearheaded this whole effort to unite these two divergent coalitions to agree on a $1 trillion infrastructure package, which is designed to overhaul lots of different things: roads, highways, broadband internet, you name it. Okay. So this was seen as a huge bipartisan victory. It's back to people reaching across aisles and compromising and being willing to work together. So that was the physical infrastructure package. Well, now Democrats in Congress are moving on to something that is probably more difficult to swing. And that is to push through a $3.5 trillion budget that is going to represent the most ambitious remaking of the social safety net since the Great Depression, since the New Deal, the hallmark of the Roosevelt administration. And it's going to be very difficult for them to push this through without Republican support and ultimately get it to President Biden's desk. And the reason why this is important is because any tax increase that gets pushed through will be pushed through as part of this $3.5 trillion budget. Why? Because this is all being pushed through budget reconciliation. And as part of how they're going to pay for this $3.5 trillion plan, it's going to involve increasing tax rates on some Americans. And everything that's included in this bill, because it's done through budget reconciliation, is going to expire in 8 years. So in other words, any tax increases on the top 1% are going to happen for 8 years. Any extension of tax cuts that took place originally under Trump in 2017, starting in 2018 and good through 2025, those would be extended for 8 years as well. So a lot of stuff hinges on what's going to happen with this $3.5 trillion budget. Now, when I talk about legislative hijinks, what am I talking about? Well, basically what Nancy Pelosi, who is the Speaker of the House, what she has committed to is that they would not do a vote on the $1 trillion infrastructure package. Remember, it's been approved in the Senate. Now it's got to be approved and passed in the House before it goes to Joe Biden's desk. What Nancy Pelosi has said is that she will not hold a vote on that $1 trillion infrastructure package unless they can at the same time vote on this $3.5 trillion package. In other words, she has the votes, she feels like, for the $1 trillion. And there's plenty of votes in Congress, in the House, to be able to approve the $1 trillion infrastructure package, but she will not vote on that until she feels like she has enough votes for this $3.5 trillion infrastructure package. And so because the numbers in this package are so big, there are actually some moderate Democrats in Congress who are wanting to hold off because it's such a big, scary number. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell in the Senate calls the Democrats' budget a reckless taxing and spending spree and made it clear that the GOP will oppose it at every turn. So Democrats are using, as we said, budget reconciliation. Okay. Now, budget reconciliation, as we've discussed in this podcast in the past, has rules about what kinds of policies are allowed. It can include items that have a demonstrable impact on the federal budget. And there's a particular question about whether some of the things in this $3.5 trillion package are going to be approved under the budget reconciliation rubric. Let's talk about what some of these things are within the proposal that the Democrats are trying to push through under budget reconciliation. It would expand health care coverage. It would fund universal pre-K and free community college. It would create ambitious federal programs to combat climate change and grant a path to citizenship for qualified immigrants, among other provisions. And it's probably going to be the last major domestic legislative effort for Joe Biden heading into the 2022 midterm election. So there's a lot riding on this package for President Biden. There's a lot riding on this package for Democratic members of Congress. And so Nancy Pelosi is now facing a group of 8 or so moderate Democrats in Congress who say that they are uncomfortable with the size and scope of this $3.5 trillion plan. They're basically balking, okay? Oh, by the way, the most powerful man in Washington, Joe Manchin, is also saying that although he voted to advance the $1 trillion infrastructure plan, and he's also voted to advance the $3.5 trillion social infrastructure plan, that he's basically said that his vote for the $3.5 trillion plan is not locked in for the final package. He says, given the current state of the economic recovery, it is simply irresponsible to continue spending at levels more suited to respond to a Great Depression or Great Recession, not an economy that is on the verge of overheating. I firmly believe that continuing to spend at irresponsible levels put at risk our nation's ability to respond to the unforeseen crises our countries could face. Kristen Sinema also voted to start the process, but has also said that her vote is not locked in for the final package. Okay, so remember, they propose something in the Senate, it goes into the House, and then they have to reconcile the two bills. And so just because they voted on the package in the Senate doesn't mean these senators are locked in for the final package. An example of a moderate Democrat who is concerned with the size and scope of this bill is New Jersey Democrat Rep. Josh Gottheimer. He's a chair of a group promoting bipartisan proposals in the House. He said he's concerned about the budget size and scope, saying the $3.5 trillion figure is very aggressive. And really what they're attempting to do is they're trying to recast a lot of different political issues as financial issues that could, in theory, fall under this rubric of budget reconciliation. Remember, budget reconciliation really only pertains to things that have an economic impact on the budget. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, look, all of these things have some sort of financial fiscal impact on the country and therefore should be construed as falling under the budget reconciliation rubric. Again, we're talking climate change, housing, childcare, paid family leave, expanding Medicare, significant immigration reforms. The thing that is probably the most fraught and the most controversial is this idea of immigration reforms. There's some progressives that are also trying to include voting right provisions during this budget reconciliation process. So Nancy Pelosi has put herself in a bit of a bind because in order to get the physical infrastructure bill, this $1 trillion physical infrastructure bill, she has to be able to get a coalition of Democrats in Congress to be able to back this $3.5 trillion because she is committed to not voting on the $1 trillion infrastructure bill until they can have an up or down vote on the $3.5 trillion social infrastructure package. And so what's happening here is all of it is potentially threatened unless she can get these Democrats that are a little bit more fiscally conservative in the House to be able to back what she is proposing. And so because she doesn't have a cohesive coalition behind this $3.5 trillion social infrastructure plan, this is not likely to go through as quickly as they thought. And that is a big deal because Joe Biden needs a win. He needs a win going into the midterm elections in order to be able to make the case to the voters in the House, the Senate, that they are making a difference for America. So the drama just got ratcheted up, folks, because involved in all of this is the future of tax rates. We do not know whether tax rates will be changing for 2022 and for the subsequent 8 years after that, because we don't know if Nancy Pelosi has the ability to gain enough support of her Democratic House members to be able to approve that $3.5 trillion package. And so things are heating up. We are going to see if she has the ability to sort of corral enough House members to approve both the 3.5 and the 1 trillion. But of course, how they state that they're going to pay for all of this is by raising taxes on anybody making above $400,000, raising taxes on corporations, reducing the state tax exemption. So there's all sorts of different things that they are going to be doing under budget reconciliation in order to pay for all of this stuff. But mark my words, they're not going to have enough revenue to be able to do it all. In fact, the recent studies from the Congressional Budget Office have shown that it is actually going to add to debt over time. So we're going to see two things that potentially come out of this. Number one, the debt's going to go up. Number two, because they are likely going to extend tax cuts on middle America for another 8 years, what does that mean? That means for 2022, 2023, 2024, all the way through 2029, tax rates on the vast majority of Americans are going to stay exactly level, which means that debt will continue to compound, debt will continue to snowball, and the fix in 2030 and beyond is going to be even more aggressive, even more draconian. And so I'm trying to keep you abreast of all of these different developments, and there is a lot of drama as you watch these things work their way through the legislative process little by little. And so here on the Power of Zero show, we are committed to keeping you abreast of all of these developments because they affect not just people who are looking to make systematic shifts from tax deferred to tax free and are trying to grapple with what tax rates are likely going to be during that process. But we are also thinking about where our country is going to be in 2030 when we have kicked the can down the road another 9 years and we have even more debt and even more fiscal instability to deal with on the back end. So as always, I am your faithful host, loyal, ready to keep you abreast, like I said, of all of the developments that happen. And as soon as we have a sense for where these recalcitrant Democrats in the House are going to be voting and how they're going to be voting, we will let you know. And as soon as we have an idea of when tax rates are going to be changing, we will, of course, be here to fill you in on all of that. Once again, if you're looking for help to navigate all of the pitfalls that stand between you and the 0% tax bracket, absolutely head over to davidmcknight.com. We're happy to help you get connected with an elite POZ advisor in your neck of the woods. If you are an advisor who is looking to step up his or her game and adopt the Power of Zero worldview in your practice and start shepherding your clients towards the 0% tax bracket, then you can head over to powerofzero.com. Happy to have a chat with you. And as always, would love a follow on Twitter. It's at McKnight & Co., at McKnight & Co., and would love a 5-star review anywhere you listen to this podcast. It really, really does help. That's it for this week. We will look forward to chatting with you same time next week.